What did your friend do that accidentally turned you on? This one girl started tickling me. When I started tickling her back, she started to moan and said she was sensitive there. Awkward drive home. I was cracking jokes with a coworker, and when she laughed at something I said, she pushed at my chest in that, "Oh stop it you" kinda way, and woo boy, I damn near melted right then and there. Drive his car. I've never been into cars, or particularly into car guys, but I looked over at him since we were talking and we were going pretty fast, and I dunno. My body wasn't ready to look at my friend driving his fast car, I guess. I came back from freshman year college to visit high school and walked into the auditorium, where an incredibly cute girl I was friends with saw me, stopped what she was doing and literally ran up the aisle and jumped into my arms to hug me. Plot twist. Married 26 years and have a son. In a hotel room on a school trip with a bunch of my friends. We were of course talking about sex and kinks and sit, and it went a little something like this. Friend. Op. Do you like to be choked? Me. I wouldn't know. Friend. Throws me back on the bed and chokes me. Me. Plus. Less than greater than. Tilde. Plus. Tilde. Tilde asterisk. Plus. Edit. Spacing. Ran her nails along the skin on the inside of my forearm. I'm straight, but holy frock. I mean, I was straight. Now I'm not sure. I have a voice kink. I specifically like very deep voices and certain accents. Playing D&D with my best friends can be very confusing for my angina. She was the popular girl in our class. She said, "I love you," to me as a friend. I think anyway, or I am just incredibly frocking dense. I didn't like her, but it still made my heart flutter. Held my hand for a few seconds. Just happened a few days ago. She was driving and we held hands for a while. I'm still evaluating why that had such an impact on me. I found restraints on his bedposts from an encounter with an ex and made fun of him. Then asked him how they work. Instead of telling me, he proceeded to put the ankle restraints on me and threw my legs over his neck and showed different ways he could frock me. I've known this dude since I was a kid and he's family to me. But I instantly wanted to drop my panties and say, "Frock our childhood. Let's ruin a friendship." So that's how I found my kink in college. When he whispers into my ear. Even though sometimes it's just something silly and not sexy. Really cute girl I had a crush on sat in my lap on the school bus headed home because there weren't enough seats. This same girl also told me, "I don't ever ask guys out because that's their job." Holy shit, I was so stupid. Edit. Thanks for the award. One of my first few ever. We were hanging out with a bunch of people and moving from one location to the next. She asked to ride with me in my car since I was solo. When she got in my car, she told me to wait and leave the parking lot last. Then she said, "Let's ditch everyone and just go somewhere else. Just you and I." As a guy, the first decided to fall asleep on a close friend's lap, who then proceeded to stroke my hair and lightly pulling it. It was really hard to fall asleep cause I was more worried that I'd get a boner from that. There are no accidents, Master Ogwe. A close friend from uni pulled my ponytail firmly enough to get my attention because I didn't hear him call me. Had to catch my breath after that. We're married now. A group of us went to a firework display, and during the usual louder and bigger finale fireworks, she jumped, grabbed my arm tight and didn't let go. Not sure what happened inside me, but yeah, that did it. I had this friend that while having long phone call sessions, she used to talk to me in this seductive sounding Colombian accent and called me bizcocho, which is cake in Spanish. Never thought being called a dessert would be hot. Or maybe I'm just weird. I offered him a sip of my drink and he made intense eye contact with me as he slowly put the straw in his mouth and took a nice long sip. I found it kinda weird to be turned on so much by him sucking on a straw since I don't have a dig. We've been dating for over 2 years now. He jumped up, grabbed a fire escape ladder, pulled himself up and climbed all the way to the top. Just oh dear, that's how I learned I have a thing for people climbing, pulling themselves up. He was driving and I was riding shotgun. He had to reverse to parallel park and turned his torso towards me, putting his arm around my seat in order to look back. He did that so confidently and effortlessly that it made me feel a little funny. We were in some math class in high school and she was tutoring me mid-class. She was leaning over next to me as I was sat down and she had her hand on my back. She was almost whispering into my ear how to figure out this problem. Something about her voice was so soothing and arousing. It was very sensual and I still think about it often. Nothing ever happened with her. We grew apart after school. Something very similar happened at my job recently though, so it brought me back. She dried my motorcycle seat with her sleeve while I was putting my helmet on. Surprise backwards hug that turned into a full-on embrace. Heart fluttered like crazy. A colleague friend took care of my wounded knee during work. We were alone in the canteen and he was very sweet and caring. Guess I'm not used to that. Edit. Spelling. Ruffled my hair. It wasn't that big a deal, but she was one of my close friends and that just, wow. I told her a joke and she smiled so much, looked at the ground then gave me a, "You're so funny" look. I honestly wanted to date her since then. It's been 3 years and I'm still thinking of her. Multiple things. First, in a party he danced with me and lifted me in the air. I'm not thin and not many people tried this with me. Then on a trip we made with friends, his cousin made a tent using sheets and a bunk bed. We went inside to read manga on his phone. He put his arms around me so we both could see the screen. Before anyone asks, he wasn't into me back then, but now we've been together for nearly 4 years. He and I were watching a movie. When he gave me a hug, while hugging me he gently ran his hands up and down my back. He didn't mean anything sexual with it. I on the other hand have a very sensitive back and was severely turned on by it. The next day he made fun of me for being ticklish. I then admitted to the truth about that. Needless to say he did it again later. We've been dating for over a year now, getting close to 2. When he flicked between languages whilst talking on the phone with his mother and then asking me to pass him his wallet. I knew people could switch it on and off like that, but I've never seen the flow quite as effortlessly. I remember a girl classmate friend liking the smell of my deodorant and just grabbing onto my arm and then proceed to walk beside me. 3 years ago. We were once on a school trip. And we went to the woods. And I went with my other friends into the deep woods. We were all boys. And we got a little lost. She went out alone to look for me and when she found me she just hugged me and whispered in my ear, "Goddammit, don't do this again. What the hell would I have told your parents?" And my dumb frocking ass just laughed and shrugged and pretended like my heart didn't explode that day. Well anyways, 3 years later I confessed and I'm sleeping right beside her now and she has no idea I'm writing this. A friend of mine I had a crush on sucked on my fingers. As a joke kinda. Then someone told her they do it in porn all the time and she never did it again, lol. I have never been ladylike, so I was play fighting with a friend and he pined me down and chalked me a little. I still think about it sometimes. Girl was really affectionate and hugged everyone. When she got to hugging me I was really awkward, so I admitted that I had never hugged a girl before. She said, and I quote, "It's fine, I'll be your first time." All my friends were laughing at how that sounded and high school me was rock hard. She was my female best friend at the time. We went out to watch A Star Is Born. She rested her head on my right shoulder. I was on cloud 9. I miss her. My back is an erogenous zone for me. Whenever a friend of mine gets too huggy I need to quietly extract myself from them, LMAO. Have had several female friends bite me in a playful manner. Turned me on every single time. Had a friend who got a tattoo on the back of her neck. Decided to kneel down in front of me so I could see it. Never been so happy for willpower in my life. Last thing I needed was her turning around to find a tent. We used to do this thing where she'd kiss my cheek whenever we said bye. She kissed my neck on accident because I moved. I think someone distracted me at a party. That's one of my sensitive spots. And yeah. Edit. We've been dating happily now for 6 years. One of my girlfriends walked out of my dormitory building in just some short shorts and a plaid shirt. And afterwards she just sat next to me and put her head on my shoulder. But she has a boyfriend. I'm terrified of being choked. Having people touch my neck etc. after an incident where I was attacked and raped. I thought I would spend my whole life with that being a really serious never ever touch my neck kind of thing. Which it was. For several years. Until my best friend, who is this 6'7" monstrosity of a human, playfully lent their hand on my neck. Yup, so it turns out I just needed it to be someone I trust. In a non-sexual setting. To unlock the ability to be turned on via neck being touched. God damn it. Brain. So close. But so far. She was pulling me like aggressively but playfully. There came this weird comfort I had never felt even from my parents. Lol. Whisper in my ear. Instant boner. When I was a freshman and taking a 6 a.m. class and going to practice an hour after school, she let me take a nap with her lap as a pillow and played with my hair. Sit was so relaxing. Also another girl got drunk and nibbled on my ear and I was like, oh sit. Gonna add grabbed my arm as we were walking. She asked me to touch her thigh. She was very proud of them after working out. Little did she know I really like thighs. We're engaged now. Was talking with a coworker and her friend walked behind her and tugged her hair as a joke. Her reaction was a quick lip bite and eyes rolled up. It happened so fast but I had to walk away for a moment. I was having a drink with an old friend a long time ago. At a point after a brief pause she just looked at me, smiled and said, "You're very handsome." You know, it got a little quiet. Awkward, and we carried on drinking and chatting, and soon it was like nothing had happened. But from that moment on I never failed to notice the striking blue of her eyes, and my feelings became slightly complicated and conflicted. It didn't last, of course. Just bizarre how a compliment can change a perception. Especially for us men who receive so few. We barely speak anymore. We're both married and she has a son. Of course I love my wife with all I have and all I am. But there's always that memory. I've never forgotten it and imagine I never will. Was very cavalier about getting changed in front of me. Sat beside each other. She lied her head down onto my lap. I went into panic mode and promptly jumped in my seat, making her sit back up. Not really a friend, but my first boyfriend when I was still finding out how attraction works. Pulled the collar of his shirt and leaned his head to the other side because he wanted to scratch his neck. IDK. I probably have some fetish for collarbones and necks, LMAO. My crush felt my hoodie because it was soft. IDK, it felt weird and turned me on. God, I am so lonely. She looked at me. I was the friend. She had hosted a party with our friends. We had been on the same beer pong team for a bit and I had been jokingly giving her a hard time about missing some shots. To which she responded by saying that she'll slap me. An inside joke, it wouldn't have been hard. I stared at her, and she raised her hand to so. And while maintaining my gaze, I quickly grabbed her by the wrist and held on for a second before letting go. She quite literally said, "That turned me on," and then asked if I heard what she said. I said, "Yeah," and continued playing. Edit. I should have added this sooner, but I had my reasons for not doing anything. Let alone the fact that she was already hooking up with an acquaintance who was also there. We were sitting on her couch watching Thor Ragnarok. Finished our Chinese food. She went got a pint of Ben & Jerry's out of her freezer and she sat sideways half on my lap and took turns taking a bite and feeding me a bite. It was oddly intimate, but she'd made it clear she was convinced if we started to date we'd end up married, and she wasn't sure she was ready for that. 6 months later we were dating. 6 months after that we were married. Coming up on our 2-year anniversary. Didn't do sit. But we were rock climbing and the rope was too tight, so he helped me untie it so he got close enough for me to catch his smell, and he actually smelled so good. Instant turn on. Might seem weird, but it is what it is. D. And nope, he wasn't sweating BC, he belayed me. Best mate's girlfriend and I got along really well. I got along great with her parents. I was sitting on the couch at her parents' house watching motorsport with her dad. She sat next to me. Fell asleep with her head on my shoulder. I was okay until I could hear that cute little breathing noise coming from her. My mate broke up with her a month or so later. I was far too dumb to pick up on the many signals from her. I was making coffee in my AeroPress for us and pressing slowly on the top of it like you're supposed to, when she shouldered me over a little and leaned on my hand to push it down faster. It was cute as frock and I'll never forget it. Edit. Oh sit. This is too many upvotes. She's gonna see it. Hi. Sorry. Choked. Me playfully. Shocked the hell out of me. My friend was looking for an earring she dropped on the ground, and her hair got in the way so she tied it up. I don't even know why. But that turned me on so much. And it's how I discovered I might be bisexual. When she put her hands on the back of her neck while leaning on the table and her eyes never left yours while listening to you. Instant turn on. Edit. Hand asterisk. We were sleeping in the same bed after a night out at our friend's flat and she told me to spoon with her because she was cold. In high school a girl I hung out with changed clothes in front of me on the basis that, well, you've seen me in a bikini so whatever, and I was like yup. Writing their name on my hand, arm. Extra points if they add a little heart. Decide to randomly put their legs in your lap to sleep while in a car. Have this friend of mine. One day at home while we were drinking with some other friends she started singing. At that moment I looked at her and didn't just see my friend. I saw a very attractive young woman. I sometimes still see that moment when I look at her and shake the thought away. At the school dance a friend who I had a crush on came over and sat on my lap, despite there being plenty of free chairs next to me, and just casually had a conversation. Edit. Geez. When I posted this I never expected it to get this much attention, let alone get awards. So thank you for them. This is my most upvoted thing on Reddit ever, which is crazy. Anyway, to all who wanted to know, she was not into me the same way I was into her. As I found out a while later when I got told we were just friends. So to whoever asked if we smashed, I regret to inform you that we did not. Also, I'm aware the thread said accidentally. And I'm pretty sure that she wasn't trying to turn me on, but it did, haha. ITT. People starved for physical affection. When she wore thigh highs with a hoodie. She knows what I'm into. Edit. Mind you, that hoodie was oversized and it covered her shorts. I can't remember the scenario that led up to it. I think there was something on my back she was helping me get. But she brushed the back of my neck. And that was the day I learned that I have a weak spot. Pet my head. I'm sensitive up there. Edit. Guys, I don't have a dig, so no, it's not the head. Down there, LMAO. A girl I became friends with on a school trip in high school fell asleep on my shoulders on the ride back. I'm 28 and I'm still coasting on that memory. We were both drunk at a friend's house party, and I playfully pulled her hair to get her attention. She gasped, and then gave a happy little moan. What made it hotter was the way she gripped the seat of her chair with both hands, and encouraged me to do it again. And so I ended up playing with her hair all night. I still think about her gorgeous bliss-filled face, though sadly we never took it any further. The last guy the first had a crush on. He was my boss. He was walking and folding his sleeves the same time and I was looking at him because it was such a simple thing. But damn, I couldn't work the entire day. I had to call a friend to calm down. Lol. Great. Now the crush has resurrected. D. Edit. Thank you all for your comments. I am really loving reading them all. Keep them coming. I haven't been able to stop smiling since I wrote this. So many missed opportunities in this single post. My high school crush was sitting on a table during class and pulled me close to her and wrapped her legs around my waist to not let me leave. She was in cross country, so her legs had some decent power on them. Right after, she grabbed my arm and gently bit my forearm. Little did I know, she awakened two new things in me. When I was a junior, I grew my hair out and had it cut to a 10 tail. I'm sitting in class one day and my classmate behind me starts gently running her fingers through it. I melted into my chair. She sat on my lap, sang, "Hey there Delilah," and every time she was with her friends and I rolled up they all stood there in silence and watched us talk. Then I got cancer, never returned to 6th form and get into uni 4 years later, the same university she just enrolled in to do her master's. Edit. Not sure why this exploded so much, but thank you for all your kind words. Remember friends, life sucks. You can only play the cards you are dealt. Doesn't mean you can't bluff. I just read every single comment on this thread. I'm so lonely. I always went by an abbreviation of my name. He was the only person to always use my full name. Dunno why, but always made me weak. Edit. My dad didn't call me by my full name. The daddy comments are creeping me out. And my name is Eloise, but people would call me El. This was 5 years back in high school. A female friend and I were put in a group together for a science project. We met up after school at her place, because no one was home and she didn't want to drive over to my place. As I was sitting on my laptop and reading, she scratched my forearm with her nails to get my attention. Man, her look in her eyes and the scratches. I still remember that. The question should have been, when did you miss obvious signals that your friend is DTF? Judging by all the replies. I was once speaking to this customer and I couldn't understand her because of her thick Russian accent. So my coworker stepped in and started speaking fluent Russian and I swear it was the hottest thing ever. I definitely have a thing for accents because that's it was put in me in some type of mood. Frock. We were in a theater with a group of friends, and while watching the movie, she would put her head on my shoulder and talk to me about how PPL come to theaters to kiss lol. I got the butterflies in my stomach but never acted on it. It was later on when I realized how dumb I was for missing my chance. Back when we were in school, a girl who had a crush on me pushed her ass into my crotch region in a bit of a grinding motion while we were standing in a crowd of other students. She turned around and winked. I'm an ass man, so I was shooting ropes to this for weeks. Made me watch Teen Titans with them, started watching the first episode as friends. We were dating by the time we finished the last one. I was on a band trip in grade 10-11 and one of the female bassoon players I was friends with gave me a literal hand massage. It was damn nice and got me sprung lol. Edit because of grammar. Formal Friday at school and my friend got real close and straightened my tie for me. I'm still waiting for something to get me that excited again. Not very subtle, but she spontaneously pulled her pants down to tan her legs while we were chilling outside. When she suggested doing it I was like, oh sure. Assuming she had shorts on underneath. Huh, no. Victoria's Secret panties. I laughed and said, dude, we're outside. But in truth, God, I was turned the hell on. She wasn't the brightest friend, but that's what made hanging out with her so fun. LMAO, I miss pre-COVID times. Not a friend per se but a random stranger. I was checking out at a drugstore. I gave my phone number for the rewards system and immediately we started chatting about where we were from. Turns out we grew up about 40 miles or so from each other and discussed what it's like being so far from home. When she handed me my change back, we held hands for a few seconds too long, and that is probably the closest thing to intimacy I've felt in a very long time. *edit. For those of you telling me I should go to her and get her number. She is in her mid to late 50s while I am in my 20s. Not entirely sure what I would do with her number. I am a girl and I have a boy best friend. After 4 years of friendship he requested we should hug. The first time we hugged it kind of turned me on. I later realized we were also spooning when a small girl was the big spoon. I had a friend lick my face as a joke because she was one of those girls that thought they were quirky or different for acting like a weirdo or something. It was like freshman year of high school IIRC. It was definitely strange as hell. But Jesus Christ, did she awaken something in me. I wasn't even particularly attracted to her. I was just licked and I felt the arousal creeping in and I'm standing there like, oh god, oh frock, please don't get a boner, frock, no. My female friend in school 10 years ago, who was in my clique, decided to adjust her bra in front of me, cupped her boobs and adjusted them. I was lick. Oh my god. Done. Look at her. I was sitting shotgun, and he was messing with me in the chair behind me. Stuff like grabbing my shoulders, pinning me to the seat by shortening the seatbelt, stroking my hair. I was beet red but I didn't tell him to stop. We're dating now. He's the sweetest person I've ever dated. I feel really lucky. There was this one incident where me and this pretty girl went out for a long drive. We drank a bit and on the return she was tired and put her head on my lap while I was driving. Pretty sure she felt my dig. We went for a walk, and she told me she was tired and demanded a piggy back home, and she rested her chin on my shoulder, and there was just something about having her gently breathe on my neck as well as having a conversation with her whispering into my ear. I was off from college for about a week. I came back and a friend of mine who I hung out with every day ran up and hugged me. But as she hugged me she jumped and wrapped her legs around me and we were just looking at each other. Should have just went for it but alas, I only realized after the fact months later. If I could go back in time I'd punch myself in the balls. He exists. She was really curious about herself. Basically she told me that she never had any sexual urges. I was like, well some people just don't. And thought we would go on a talk about the science of sexuality or stuff like that. We liked discussing a bunch of topics together. Lo and behold, the next thing she told me was all the different ways she tried to masturbate, from fingering herself to inserting phallic objects and more. I was taken aback and got turned on from it. Sat on my lap and was shifting around. For reference, I'm a girl and it's making me wonder if I'm actually bisexual, haha. A few years ago me and a friend were goofing around, making flower crowns on a grassy knoll. She decides to roll down said knoll. And as she does her shirt rides up and I can see the sun reflecting off that little line of hair that goes down from the belly button. I swear time stopped and all of my blood vessels woke up at once. The sun was shining brighter. The flowers smelled sweeter. It was as if I briefly stepped into a more perfect pocket dimension. It was then I knew I definitely was not straight. Was colder out than I expected and I didn't have a jacket. Wrapped his arms around me from behind. Obligatory edit. First ever award. Thank you. Hugs for everyone. Playfully choked me on a school trip at 2 a.m. with a couple of our friends asleep in the bed next to us. Had a really good friend who was a girl throughout HS. Never thought she was particularly attractive but as part of a joke. She did this satirical lip bite and wink and well, let's just say I still remember it vividly. Gave me a slow back hug out of nowhere. We were drinking and her hand slowly circled my waist and leaned in. She was a bit tipsy and did that cause she was feeling sleepy. I froze and hoped that she doesn't hear how fast my heart was beating. I still get flashbacks whenever we hang out and I try to avert my eyes. Thanks again for reminding me how dull my life is. Played porn in their laptop. We were 6 guys watching a gangbang. It was really weird. My friend was once telling me about ear kissing, with tongue and everything. I laughed and said that sounded gross and uncomfortable. She did it to me and oh my god. Friend in college with double D's pulled me in for a hug while I was sitting on the floor working on a project. My arms went around her waist, and she pushed my face right into her chest. I couldn't concentrate on my work for a little while after that. Lol. Edit. I love that my first comment to ever reach 1K upvotes is about a girl shoving my face into her tits. Go to thorny jail. Reddit. Edit. Make that 2K LMFAO. Was giving a very good friend of mine a hug by, and I must have squeezed harder than normal or something, cause she just melted into me and let out the most pleased moan I've heard her make. Stood there for a good 40 seconds holding her up while she composed herself. Her boyfriend was not pleased at all. Around 2002-ish I was playing Counter-Strike on my computer, when suddenly my next door neighbor girl just came into my room and sat on my lap, while hugging and breathing down my neck. I am sure she could feel my growing enthusiasm. After a lot of deaths I finally decided to quit the game and just hug back. After a while I started to wonder if she had fell asleep or something. Turns out she just had a bad day and all she needed was a hug. But that breathing down my neck, yes. I mean, one day in high school my best friend back then put my hands between her giant's badonkahonkas willingly, out of nowhere. We've never had anything other than friendship, and both parties were completely fine with it, but you see, when you get to touch huge ass tits like those, you pop a boner out of respect. Drive me home late at night. It was not for me, but for a friend of ours. My house just happened to be on the way. I still have the crush up until now. I'm pathetic. I know. My husband and me have this male friend who gives amazing massages. So, I am really turned on by kissing or massaging in the neck area. So, this one time the friend gave me a neck massage and I was so turned on that my husband and me had our first ever car quickie on the way home. The cute lesbian. Or so I was told by a friend, who sat across from me in biology lab, brushed my leg with her foot. I found it so hot that I decided to ask her out, figuring she was bi. Turns out that she was into me too, and we've been married for a few years now. Funny thing is that she didn't even brush my leg on purpose. She was just stretching. Didn't try to take advantage of my drunken ass when I was clearly signaling for a kiss. Not getting a kiss back made me appreciate that friend a lot indeed. She starts to hug me every time we drink. Another friend likes to put her legs on mine when we sit down, and sometimes she accidentally touches my pee-pee with her knee and she says oops. We were sitting on a sofa and I was telling him a story. Then he slowly started to roll up his sleeves, while he was watching me like dead in the eyes and listening carefully. Thank God I was sitting. Put her hand on my upper thigh, and as her fingers wrapped around, I got hard enough that it touched her hand. She looked at me with a bit of surprise in her eyes and then she winked. Update. After the wonderful, super and loving advice of everyone, I decided to bring it up with her to ask about a relationship. She said she is open to that. Went to the movies and she put her head on my shoulder. Was smiling uncontrollably, but I don't think she noticed. She said yes the same night. Been together ever since.